Teacher clarity has a pretty powerful effect size. Teacher clarity means that the teacher actually knows what the students need to learn. That means you understand the standards and where your learners are in their performance. That's the first part of teacher clarity. Second part is that you communicate that with your students. What are we learning today?
There was a time when I did not use learning intentions, at least as explicitly as I use them now. And there was a time when I didn't use success criteria in the timely way that I do now. I used to give students the rubric after the fact, after an assignment. And there are a couple things that change once you start being really explicit about what you expect and why we're doing something. And one of the primary things that changes is engagement. Students, when they know how the pathway to success, they're more likely to start walking down that pathway. Something else that changes is you start to build that muscle in students of self-assessment before they turn something in. So they start building that editing muscle, and they start building that not giving up when challenged muscle, and to continue persevering until they themselves are satisfied that they have met the criteria of an assignment, not just that a teacher gave them a grade. So look over here, I'm gonna set your purposes for today. You're gonna analyze concepts of growth and decay. There's your math connection. Using informational texts. Your language, you're gonna explain and describe growth and decay as they relate to real world situations. For example, one of the texts you're gonna read today is about car depreciation. Why does a car lose value once we drive it off the lot? Social, you're gonna encourage your teammates to think about words and their meaning in many ways.
Learning objectives are something that teachers are familiar with. We all went to teacher school. We've all learned about the importance of having learning objectives within a lesson. But learning objectives communicate information to the teacher. Learning intentions, on the other hand, are kind of the student-facing side of a learning objective. In other words, how is it that we can make sure that students understand what it is that they're going to be learning about on a given day in a given lesson? I'll give you an example from secondary. A learning objective, for example, might be to use direct and indirect characterization in analyzing a scene in a novel. But a learning intention signals to the students exactly what it is that they're going to be learning about and why. So, for example, rather than using just the academic language of direct and indirect characterization, which are important for students to know in high school, that we begin to build that out a bit more by saying, for example, we're going to be using those techniques to be able to analyze a scene, to understand what it is that Scout is doing in terms of her actions as well as her internal dialogue, and understanding what her perceptions are at this moment in To Kill a Mockingbird. And we're going to contrast that with what Jem is saying and doing so that we can figure out whether Scout's perceptions are right on target, or are they really being influenced by the fact that she is a young child? And that's going to help us in understanding why it is that Scout sees all of these events in a particular way. That's a learning intention. That is telling students not just we're going to use direct and indirect characterization, but why it is that we're using, how it is that we're going to use it, and why it's essential at this point in this novel that we understand what it is that the author's doing so that we can understand how it is that the character is reading his, or her in this case, reading her situation.
Students need to know what good work and great work looks like. So teacher clarity takes into account all of that. Who are our students? What do they need to learn? Do they know they need to learn it? And do they know what success looks like?
No one wants to walk into a situation and not know what it means to be successful and what that looks like. And I think sometimes there's a lot of pushback into, if you're going to have a success criteria, that you're standardizing or you're ranking students in a particular way. And I think you have to be very careful when you're talking about what success criteria looks like. And so for me, when I'm planning that, is what project do I want? So for example, the project we're working right now is an argument letter. But I'm able to makes like success criteria look different for each student. So creating those rubrics, creating that end of piece, they can kind of determine where am I on this continuum and where do I need to go next. And for some of my students, they're going to be starting at the end, and I need to even expand my criteria to move them forward. So I look at the success criteria as more of a continuum, that you're setting up, this is my baseline of what I need to have happen for kids. And then from there, where can I go above and beyond? And what kind of scaffolds do I need to support with the students in front of me to get every student there? How am I going to know if I'm successful today?
What did I learn?
What did you learn from your partner, right? Your exit slip today is going to be, this is what I learned from my partner.
You're going to read the article, and then you're going to go back to your original post where you created that list, and you're going to teach us something that you learned in the article about growth or decay. You must use evidence from the text. Are there any questions on that? I use learning intentions so that the students understand why we're doing what we're doing. I think often in school, it's easy to fall into, this doesn't matter. What is this going to do to help me in life? Why am I learning this?
Mr. Arnice enforces what we're supposed to be learning by, after we're done, like, he'll give us like our quick write, and he'll tell us the purpose of that. And then once we're done discussing that and sharing that, we'll go on to something else. And then once we go into that, he'll tell us the purpose of doing that. And so through everything that we do, he tells us the purpose and what it's supposed to mean and how we're supposed to connect with that and take what we learned today and just use it in our everyday lives and for our own understanding.